let me say a special good morning to those of you listening to Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9 on the FM dial. How's everybody doing this morning? Hope all is well with you. Those of you viewing via GBN TV, which one of the channels you have chosen to view us via this morning. Good morning to you also. What about our social media audience? The Facebook page, YouTube channels. Good morning. Those of you via GBM's webpage, welcome to The Point. Today being Monday, the 13th day already within the month of May. Yes, and within the year 2024. It's a Monday morning, and usually on a Monday, I of course do have usually joining me on the program, the co-host Mr. Sylvan Intyre. He's going to be a little bit late this morning. Should I say a little bit late? Yeah, I can say it like that sometimes. He's going to be late this morning, and just a prior engagement before coming to this show, but he suddenly promised to join me shortly. All right, our usual topic of conversation when we're on the program in the morning, we talk a whole lot about, risk management, and we do have experienced a bit of a drought conditions on island right now, and most of the other Caribbean islands, so that was our topic of conversation this morning, and we should be getting into that when he pops in. In the interim, of course, you call us, you have the opportunity to join us this morning via telephone number 435-2041. Hope all is well with everyone on the outdoors. 435-2041. Something that we probably could diverge in a wee bit until someone joins us this morning. Maybe I could listen to you callers, Poppy, calling in this morning, and I've seen some recommendations. We've been having a wave of gun violence on island lately. And, maybe you could wait in on that just a wee bit in terms of conversation. Sylvan would certainly be the one appropriate, to respond to some of it. But so let's hear some of your, of course, recommendations to the authorities, if you possibly can, in terms of what we could do about that. It's becoming a little bit unbecoming. It's not the kind of thing we would like to see our beautiful island, getting down to. And then it's spiraling a little bit out of control. Some would say, we're not a violent country, for we could say that. And, Sylvan did mention that last week, Violence is not a weak thing that is out of control here on island, but 1, 2, 3, 4 is sometimes considered too much. Let's levitate to our first caller this morning and see what they have to offer. We lost that caller there. 435-2041. That's the number once again, 435-2041. Feel free to give me that call and chiming on today's program. Let's until Sylvan joins us. Good morning to you, caller. You're welcome. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, brother. How is everything?
Not too bad at all. How are you this morning?
Morning, good. Okay, I'm going to be and foreign. No, we'll bring our son board and think, man. Bring our son, come, we deal with our son, man. Our son will supply what people for the nation. We don't have enough water.
I think by now you certainly understand the conditions that we are going through here on island. And I mean, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be here talking about it, but what could they do now? In terms of
Carrico have water from the sea, the drinking water, sea water drinking in Carrico. The drinking water. We too. We're going to have enough water wasting, boss. Then also answer some questions. Then we monopoly water in Grenada. So supply water for the people. Bring water to your home. That's the duty on our water. And the water going to the sea every 24 hours a day. Going to the sea. So now some management is coming wrong with our vision. Carry them on the board, boss.
All right, cool. Thank you so much for your contribution this morning. And it's also one of the topic of conditions of course, that we're going to be talking about this morning when Sylvan pops in. The drought conditions that we're going through, the preparations, just in case we do have the hurricane season popping in on us in the next couple of months. You officially pops into the just in the month of June, right? We do pop into the hurricane season. We will call it in our neck of the woods the rainy season. Hurricane season will suddenly start, and of course, it certainly would love to hear you folks feel about that when he comes in terms of what he has to say as it retains. Let's entertain another caller. Caller, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Chichi, and morning to your listener and your viewers.
How are you doing this morning, sir?
I think people should bear in mind that it's not only in Grenada we have the water issue right now. You heard on the news this morning, St. Vincent have rationalizing the use of the water because of the shortfall. It's a very serious problem. In fact, some years ago, we were told by the experts that the region was already experiencing water challenge. But apparently we don't take it until things happen. So my urge is that we as a people sit together and decide how we go help to navigate the situation. It's like what I had said before COVID came in, and then we went screaming and camping. We could do things. We have to be able to limit our choices. We want to build big houses, how many bathrooms and toilets, to have how many vehicles to wash it down. I mean, we need to ask us, is it necessary, or is that we having overinflated egos?
But is anything wrong with wanting a house that with many rooms? I mean, it's up to the affordability of the individual.
There's a big problem. One thing is a capitalist invention. Need is a basic thing people have, not wants. The industry, the advertising industry, the image industry, the status industry have built in that for us to want. If you want to be somebody else, bleach your skin. If you want to be some real person, bleach your skin. Get this, get the van, get the man, get the land. I mean, it's everything about get, even though you don't need it. So I'm saying that we need to have a major conversation on how we arrive at where we are. And then the other thing about it, GT, people keep cutting down trees indiscriminately. We can't. I have seen in the last few months so many places cut down to put either houses or to plant cane. Something is wrong with us. So in the light of that, we still expect rain to come? Oh, my God. You know, historically, the dry season has been a very challenging time for us, but we always had a little rain intermittently. Now, there's no rain. Because why? There's no trees to attract the rain in the dry season. So we have to wait and hopefully, and we face a negative problem, existential problem. When the rain finally comes, it comes with too much as in other places. We have to really wake up and smell the coffee. Thank you. I wouldn't continue.
Have a good morning, sir. Have a good morning. 435-2041, 435-2041. Open line if just for a wee bit this morning until we have Mr. McIntyre popping in on the program with us this morning. As I did mention, I've just engaged in something in prior to get in here this morning. So let's chime in on another caller. Caller, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, GT.
How are you doing this morning?
There are two main things about the Nawasa problem, right? I wake up, I can't go to church, I can't get water. To the point that Nawasa board need to come together. Okay, they're charging us for meters. Okay, that should be independent. It should not be a monopoly on that. Charging some people for sewage, that should be considered. They need to figure it out when they go to the next board meeting. Okay, the national security, the guy who's in charge, the prime minister. There's money out there, oil and gas money. We need to do some research, that in the new government and management. Get this money back from the banks that's offshores, back to the treasury of Grenada, and solve some of the infrastructure, water, electricity, and the poor people that needs help to be supported. Dr. Alexis, another thing. Dr. Alexis was on the radio this morning, your program. He was talking about England. Give us a loan for 1.25. We don't owe them. They owe us for all the abuse of a family, of people before us went. They want to put us in a situation like Haiti, where Haiti owe France for the rest of indefinite amount of time. We should not be paying England for nothing. They need to pay us, our ancestors, for reparations for all this damage that's done to our people. Okay? And get that reparations in the coffers of Grenada Treasury and solve a whole lot of financial, economic problems that we have. That's the National Security Minister and his new government need to concentrate on. And don't forget about that money and that's in other banks in other countries. Have a good day.
Thank you, caller. Have yourself a good day also. 435-2041, 435-2041. That's the number here on Classic Radio for this morning. And just entertaining a bit of an open line just for a few minutes this morning. And, sometimes you're throwing an idea and folks doesn't seem to want to gravitate in it. Because I was really inviting you callers. Maybe you could throw some recommendation on gun violence to the authority and get, of course, your 2 cents in. And you probably may have an idea that would certainly help to seize that problem that is getting a little bit out of control in this small neck of the woods. Let's entertain another caller. Caller, you're welcome. Good morning.
Hi, Hi, good morning, GT. How you doing?
I am doing A-OK this morning. How about you this morning?
I'm all right.
All right.
GT, I want to speak a little on the water. I want to say to Nawasa, every house have a meter. I wonder if Nawasa and see fit like next year, please God, you have a tank drive. Right? Not everybody are going to need a tank, but who need it, you have a line, they could call you, and you come, you buy the tank, you set up for them. They could collect from the roof, they could collect from the pipe. And every month, just as how we paying $12 a month for the meter, you collect something for us, a little more than 12, sometimes $12, until the person finish pay for the tank, and perhaps next year, please God, we may be able to solve some of the problems.
So you think you're thinking a tank drive may be the solution to the problem that folks existing when the dry season comes around.
Right. And the next one with Wagiti. Wagiti does have bingo, sometimes 3 cars they raffling. I wonder if you can see fit to raffle one, and the cost of the car, you buy tank, so instead of you win a car, you win a tank. We have to look for ways where we could help.
Probably you could speak to the promoter and let him and give him that particular idea. Maybe
play bingo, but if I see him, I could able to talk to him.
Probably you could have that conversation with him and see if that could be one of the ideas that he could throw out. You understand?
I'll try that. And the last part, I just asking the young men of this country, put on your guns. Listen, remember all your mom. Sometimes tears in her eyes to bring her little come in the wall, and now a little tears in her eyes to put her little sleep. Remember all your mom, young people. Put down the gun.
All right. Maybe you could also encourage them to adhere to the amnesty that is out right now. And if you do have a gun in your possession, and carry it in and get that amnesty working. Hopefully we see lots of individuals doing that in terms of returning those guns that are illegal guns that are out there. Caller, welcome. Good morning.
Mr. Telesford, good morning. Greetings. I thought I'd hang up my guns, but they're provoking me. This morning on the program prior to you coming on there and so on, we had a very interesting guest, Dr. Alexis. Well, we had 2 interesting guests, Dr. Wendy Grenade and Dr. Francis, talking about the Constitution reform activity again. I am happy. I did hear certain things that interested me very much, but I want them to know that what we need in this here country is full constitution, a full constitution made by the people of Guinea, because we're fully capacitated. Making constitution nothing to do with lawyers alone. No. We want a constitution by the people, for the people, and with the people. We want a democratic process. It's not what they say, and they come to brainwash us. So we're waiting for them. Not that we do not want to put it straight any piecemeal operation. Well, they looking to pick. This is a serious term, but it tells us something about the kind of people who use it. So pick the low-hanging fruit. It came from one of them mouths this morning. A serious thing, That's opportunism, unmasked. Opportunism. And we don't want that. We want a new constitution made by the people, which will begin as follows. Whereas we, the men and women of Grenada, ... Because this halfway thing they want to do again, as they did in 16 and 18, that wouldn't change Section 57 of the Constitution. That wouldn't change Section 83, not 35, not 21. No. We still, albeit we don't swear to the king, but it wouldn't change the fact that the executive authority in Grenada resides in His Majesty the King. No, we don't want to be ruled by any king. We want a new constitution now through a constituent assembly. Well, not right now. That's what we want. We want a referendum. Finally, Mr. Telesford, sir. As it relates to the gun violence, first of all, I'm extremely happy not these crazy black power revolutionary communists that bringing in the guns in the country now. I'm happy that is not those kind of people. But you know something, Mr. Telesford, on a serious note, I think that this thing is being augmented and increasing every day because of the quote-unquote porous nature of our borders. I want them to look at that. The porous nature of the borders means boats, planes, whatever, well, probably not planes, but listen, there are certain parts of this here country, Grenada, where boats go in without even checking with the immigration and customs. They better start looking at that. Check the porous nature of our borders first before anything else. Of course, we have to talk to these young men. I want to suggest that you talk to the people involved. Put them, sit down. Ask them what's happened to them. Ask them what they would like to see, what they need, what they want. We need to talk this matter over with the people involved or people who are likely to get involved in it. But first of all, the porous nature of the border. There are many more things and so on that I'd like to talk about, but you look at that couldn't shut down and so on this year, boy.
All right.
Have a nice day, will you?
You too, sir. Have a good morning. All right, folks. We drew for a break. Let's take it till we come back shortly. Hopefully, Sylvan will join us and we'll continue our conversation this morning. But we drew for a break in this segment. Let's take it and we will be right back. Stay with us, folks. To the Point here, Classic Radio, GBN TV.
A call to protect our children. Innocent lives brought into this world, fruits of the womb, boys and girls, young lives born into families, longing to be loved and protected by society. Meanwhile, there are persons who are focused on abusing children, ravaging their innocence, pretending to be their friend, appearing to be genuine and a source of protection. They are the same ones who are armed with deception. These wolves in sheep clothing must be exposed. A lot are walking around and nobody knows. It's about time that these abusers feel uncomfortable in society, for the things they do to children is a disgrace to humanity. Our children's cry of no, help, seems to fall on deaf ears. Abusers still ravage them despite the painful tears. There are children who have been abused for many years by people they know. It's like no one cares. Can we not hear the screams of our children as
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, to the Point here, Classic Radio, GBN TV. Mr. Back still hasn't joined us as yet, so we continue until I did promise just around 9:30 for the ladies he should be in with us, and hopefully he's in by then. Let's entertain another caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
Well, the gun thing on the street, right? I think it was earlier on this month I was listening to the parliament, and one of the ministers said that we should give some kind of incentive to the fellas who have gone and to bring it in. And like baby Jesus said, no, you're not doing that. Well, I mean, if you're not doing that, if I see a gun, I go tell the police I see a gun, no, I won't do it. I will try to take it for myself. You understand? If you're giving an incentive, you remember when the American was here, they see they're giving incentive for who have gone, and lots of people bringing gun, lot, and they make something. I think they should give people offer an incentive for who are gone, and I think more gun will come in. What goes on in Saigon? The pumpkin follow the vine, because just how this boy died, it's just how his father died. Just a couple yards away from where he died. I wish them all the best with the gun thing in Grenada. God bless.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution this morning. Let's take a comment from someone via the WhatsApp this morning. They're saying, good morning, GT. Calling on Nawasa, please. If they can pass with the truck and of course, the truck with their truck to drop up some water. Promise, of course, us that they will get water on Friday and Monday. That's in Lavery, Petersfield. Some are getting, I'm not getting none. And she's asking, please, individuals saying they are seniors and they cannot walk, and they of course they're kind of walking in search of water, so they're asking for that particular help there. So folks from Nawassa, help the folks in Laborie, Petersfield area. They need some water, please. And if you bring the truck, they will get whatever buckets or whatever containers they have to get you water. They will be happy to do so. Caller, you're welcome. Good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. I just heard Mr. Olu say that we should have our laws. The constitution comes from the people. But there will be no laws made in any country where the politicians and the lawyers are not involved. So we, the people, they want to put what they want in the law for us. Not the people. The people ain't going to need it. In the revolution was the same thing. It's the people's law. But the people didn't make those laws. Mm-hmm. The revolution made the laws and govern us under it.
All right, Colin.
Who people that make laws in the revolution? Who the people that made the laws in the revolution? Can you remind me of that?
All right. Thank you so much, caller. Thank you for your contribution this morning. 4:45. It's 23 minutes after the hour this morning. Let's go to the Facebook page. I'm looking at some of the comments here as respect. And someone is saying, I'm saying no to the incentives. And two. And if you want to take either, if you want to take either, you want to kill someone with it, someone will kill you too, or some other sort. I'm thinking I kind of get to the direction the individual is trying to make the statement, but let's go to the telephone line. Caller, you're welcome. Good morning.
Hi, good morning to you, GT, and to your followers. A couple of things. First of all, a question. I remember in the build up to this in the 2018 election, the then Prime Minister spoke about a lot of money that was coming for water. Mm-hmm. He spoke about, I think it was $119 million, and it was money that he didn't have to pay back 1 cent, and he didn't want it to get in the hands of people who cannot be trusted, that he should be voted back to get that money, so he can get that money and spend it for what I think it had to do with storage. There certain amounts were earmarked for certain parishes and other things like that. Can you recall that?
Not 100%, yes. But if you heard it, well, let's forward it.
Also, in the build up to the last election, questions were asked about it, and I think the response was that these things take a little time and they're working on things, but it's about to happen. I've not heard all the press conferences, but to me, I have not heard anything much about that $119 million, of which we didn't have to pay back 1 cent. That was earmarked free money for water storage facilities. I would like someone in the government or elsewhere in Nawassa to fill us in on the status of that money, a lot of money it was described as being. Now, the other thing I'd like to just say a few words about is the real worrying matter of gun violence. And my plea to those out there with guns, please, we do not need guns. Guns do not help. It doesn't help a young man to become a mechanic, an electrician, a plumber, an IT specialist, anything. And these are the jobs: a mason, an architect, these are jobs that are out there. And you don't need a firearm to assist you with that. I'll go even further. I don't see that a firearm is contributing to you even being a better lover. If that's what you're concerned about. If you're concerned about the girls, I don't see it helping you. So why? And, gun violence, not only does it kill, and people are saying, the criminals are getting killed. No. They're all human beings too, and they have loved ones. And it's going to spill over, and innocent people will get killed eventually. But what it does is creates fear in the society. It affects commerce because people don't want to go out anymore. The bars and everything else will suffer. People won't spend money. People would lose their jobs. Tourism would suffer. Even people who want to go out and exercise, go in the outdoors. People who have illnesses and who need to exercise for their diabetes or their hypertension, even those people will be affected. So violence and crime and the fear it creates, it has a negative impact on the entire society, not just the economy. So I'm just praying, I'm hoping that, common sense would prevail and this thing would just, we could put a handle on it. But it's not good. It's not good for anybody, not for those with the guns, nor for the rest of our society. Please, guys, look for the opportunities. Be selfish for once. Think about yourself, your families, your parents, and think about the country eventually. Thank you, GT.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Colin. Have yourself a great morning. Folks, we drew for a break. Let's take that break quickly, and we should be joined by Mr. McIntyre in the next segment. Stay with us. We will come in right back. Don't touch your dial.
That's not how you cross the pedestrian crossing.
Really? One day I just woke up and I saw pedestrian crosswalks on the road. No one really showed me how to use them properly.
Well, this is how it's done. You never cross before doing these things. They might save your life. First, when you get to the crosswalk, you stop. You look left, you look right. If there's a vehicle coming, you put your hand out, making eye contact with the driver, indicating that you want to cross. And only when the vehicle comes to a complete stop, you quickly cross to the other side.
Stop, look, hand out, eye contact. Wait for pedestrian to cross to the other side, then you happily continue on your journey. This message is brought to you by this group of insurance companies, the Traffic Advisory Body, and the Traffic Department.
Wait to see my granddaughter.
Welcome back, folks. Welcome back to our listeners and our viewers as well. Mr. McIntyre, good morning and welcome, sir.
Hey, good morning to you, GT. And I want to again
Should I put you in detention?
No, you can't. No, I did submit my reason for not being present. Yeah, so I just want to again apologize for my presence not being here earlier on, but I did indicate that I was going to be coming on. Yeah. And for those of you who are viewing, listening, following, I couldn't just spare the moment I couldn't stay away from not coming, even if it's just for a few minutes. We did have other engagements, national, and so I decided that I have to come on because it is critically important. Particularly, we're looking at some issues. I listened on my way in terms of the contributions towards the drought situation that we're facing. The crime and seeming violence that is happening and what has happened over the weekend. I would want to express my profound sympathy and empathy to the bereaved family of the one who has died and passed. And regardless of what people's opinion and expression happen to have been or is, a life is a life. So and every life is important. Every human being should be considered as important. And everyone should be given the ability, the access to life. And no one should feel privileged or otherwise to shorten somebody else's life. That is unacceptable. And so for this morning, we are still hoping that we are going to have not just the comments on the situation, but that we are going to offer solutions to what is happening, how our society, how our national mechanism can help. As one of the callers was saying, that I had to intimate as well that the fear of crime itself is even worse than crime.
Yeah.
So the image that is created and otherwise, it is even worse than even the actual crime. You may just have one situation that may have happened or is happening, and the fear that things can escalate or things can happen is even worse than the thing itself.
Just having the thought in your mind, folks not wanting to go anywhere because of, hey, this is going to happen, or you not want to do this because that's going to happen.
Yes.
It's not a kind of situation you want to be a part of. You understand?
Yes. And so as we speak about on both issues within the next half an hour, we want people to really not just elaborate and comment negatively or otherwise on the situation, but we want you to offer real solutions.
Yeah.
Say to us what you think we can do as a nation. I know people are going to say pray, which is one of those. People are going to say the police need to become a bit more proactive in dealing and so forth. They are going to say that families have to become a bit more involved in the activities and whereabouts of their children, etc. And society has to become more responsible in identifying the issues, the spots, report them and deal with them. There are quite a number of solutions that people can suggest and things people can do, including making the spots less conducive to what they are. And if you take a look around Grenada, where some of the activities are currently happening, you realize that there are places that people have been assembling, associating in sort of a ways and involving kinds of activities that maybe you can see or said that is only a matter of time, not if but when something is going to happen in those areas.
Because you know the gathering and stuff, and you know what actually takes place.
Yes.
You know? And sometimes the individuals who live in these communities are noticing what is taking place.
Yes.
But sometimes they don't speak out about it.
Yes.
You know, fear for themselves also.
Right.
You understand? They don't speak out because you could always tell by the sudden gathering on a constant basis, you know, hey, something right is not happening there. You understand? Something right is not happening.
So I do not want us to get to the point, I mentioned it last week, that it is not beyond what our law enforcement can manage.
Yeah.
There's something called a crisis and a state of emergency that normally is declared when situation seems to be of an unprecedented level.
But we haven't gotten there.
We haven't gotten there, and I wanted to say a little bit on that, but I still maintain that the situation is not out of control. It is a point that is a pivot point, in my opinion, that the tip of the balance can go anywhere. It can decrease. It depends on how we approach it, and I say collective approach, and it depends on the way we deal or not deal with it. It can go to the point where it creates the image that will impact our economy, as one of the callers was saying earlier on. Tourists, people not wanting to do business, people not wanting to go to involve in social activities. We do not want to get to that stage. We have a low crime rate, one of the lowest in the Eastern Caribbean, and we rank among the lowest in the world in terms of how we deal with things. And I want to encourage all citizens or persons who are concerned about what's happening around us to do not lose faith in our law enforcement, but give them your support. They are working behind the scenes to ensure that the situation is brought under control. I know they are currently discussing strategies that cannot be made public, but the situation is, I'm sure, really closely looked into as to how we can, as a nation, restabilize ourselves and not creating an image that it is not a safe society to be in. I want to reiterate that it is a collaborative, all hands on deck effort to be able to deal with it. And families do have a critical stake to play in all of this. Before we switch for any other thing, it would be really remiss of me if I did not say happy belated Mother's Day to all of the wonderful mothers of our nation, and hope that every one of you, I lost my mother at age 58, quite a young woman she was, and I lost her after we had the best day of our life, Mother's Day, or best celebration where we danced her. I think I said this on the program before, every Mother's Day. And then she unfortunately passed, so I did not. But I really want to implore mothers that you are loved, you are important. Women, as a matter of fact, you do play a very critical role in the stability of our country. And we want you to, when the other aspect of the household, the male figure, does not step up to his manly responsibility, that you take your shoulders to the wheel and ensure that your children and your family, they're well cared of, and you instill the values that can create a safer society. Even what we face now, mothers, you do have a responsibility not to mother your own children, but to become mothers of communities, mothers of society, and mothers of our nation, in ensuring that we encourage people, even people who are older than you, that you can still become the mother figure in directing them in the right way. So I want to say special greetings to my adopted mother, Auntie Louise Burke. Thank you for the wonderful encouragement and support you have been given. And those of you again who have adopted and taken up people under your wings to ensure that they are on the right path. Yeah, okay. Again, hats off to every one of you, and let us put collective measures together to ensure that the scourge that we are faced with, that we can handle that. All right.
I still want us to continue on this a wee bit before we switch to our conversation. This morning I showed out the idea, of course, the information. I said, hey, let's hear a recommendation from you callers. Yes. As it adheres to the situation that we see now, the gun violence and so forth. And I did mention that you did say that last week, Violence is not out of control in Grenada. Right. It's not out of control. It's not out of the hands of law enforcement. Because I would say, no, law enforcement need the help of society even more. No. Yes. You understand? Yes. Because law enforcement cannot be here, there, and everywhere at the same time. Right. And of course, and even in Grenada, it's limited where we could have, the amount of police officers available, to be at every hangout spot or every area around the island. So citizens plays an important role. So if we could get those recommendations from citizens out there. I know there are folks who their minds are bombarded with information that they think are recommendations that they can throw out to the authorities. Sometimes the authorities may not know everything, even though they are part of law enforcement, but sometimes there are those critical things that they may not put into consideration that maybe someone that's listening to us could probably throw this morning that could make a whole lot of difference. A whole lot of difference. Yeah. Let's entertain a caller this morning and see what they have to throw this morning. And I beg of you callers, please, your contribution, we certainly do appreciate it, but be limited in terms of what you say, because we are withdrew for time constraints this morning. Let's take this caller. We lost that caller there. 435. I certainly hope you get the direction I'm trying to push this morning.
Yes, I definitely do.
You understand? And it could make a whole lot of difference in terms of, the everyday citizen on the road out there, the everyday citizen at home, how they see things in the community. I know there are communities where individuals just feel, well, I don't want to participate for whatever reason. Yes. And I think that's a wrong approach.
That definitely is. And sometimes conditions around give them the reasons or to generate those kind of excuse that they don't want to be a part of it. Last week I did say that I was going to be speaking at the Presentation Brothers PTA, which I did, and that was one of the issues that came up, the whole aspect of crime and violence and how parents can deal with it. And there's quite a number of recommendations that came up, but I think we can take this caller.
Yeah, let's take this caller. Caller, you're welcome. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. We are assuming that parents are not talking to their children. That's an assumption. I think parents are talking to their children, but let me say this. There's no way anyone could control the mind of a person who wants to get a gun and use it. There's no way. And one of the things I think is happening is that the people who use guns, they see others coming up in the society and have access to things which they want and they cannot get. And the only way they think they can get it is by force. So that is one problem. The next thing about guns used on others, like the friends, they cannot control their way of thinking. And they see the only way they could fight a fight, not by cuff or fist fight, is with guns. They're insecure. And it's very difficult. I don't know, but to me it's very difficult to heal or help these people. Very, very difficult. Because when a person makes up his mind to commit a crime or to use a gun, I don't care what you say or do. They're going to go ahead and do it. So this is a no-win situation. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much.
So while I respect the views of everyone, we do not wish to get to an end state of gloom and doom, that there is no solution. We have to be positive as a nation. We have to be positive as people, that there is always an opportunity for a change and a solution. If every one of us could think that it is at the end where we could do nothing about it, hell break loose.
All right. And it gives individuals who are committing these particular crimes the feeling that, hey, I am on top of this.
Yeah.
You understand?
But if you follow the trend of what's happening in terms of the people who are losing their lives and those who are committing the crime, it's not a matter of where people are going and putting a gun to somebody's head for riches like robbery or otherwise. It is a situation of our revenge.
Yes.
Of one man did this and I want to do that. And if you follow the trend technically that those who shoot, they're actually shooting to kill. They're not just shooting because, in some cases, except it's proven differently, we cannot say that there was an act of self-defense where somebody was attacked, they were placed against the wall, and they had to use the weapon as a means of last resort.
So something had to instigate whatever has occurred.
And it is seeming as though, as I indicated before, if you really follow where these things and how these things are happening, we understood like Saturday evening or Sunday evening, there was a seeming explosions of seeming to be bullets that went off in the dark that somebody posted over social media after the shooting that went on Sunday morning. And so it is something that people sometimes using as copycat issues, that because they are speaking about guns and everything else, we're going to show them that we do still have guns and we have access to it. So there's one a copycat syndrome, and there's one the revenge for no really justified reason. It's like a hit situation that my brother or my comrade, something happened to him and we're going to come back at you. And so we need to be able to break the cycle. And we're not speaking about just parents speaking to children. We're speaking about people speaking to each other. There's somebody who should have some level of influence. I did say last week in the meeting that we sometimes tend to want to find the formal forum through which we could speak to people, but we're not reaching the right target audience. When you generate sometimes the town hall meetings and you generate workshops and seminars and so on, the people who are involved, they would not come to these sessions. They would not
even program of this nature.
They wouldn't even listen to this medium. So my recommendation is that we seek as a community, as a nation, to find the informal way of getting information and reaching those people. There are persons and people who every person will listen to. There are every opportunity, there is an opportunity in every situation where you can have a situation change. And one of it is to not have a group condition, but to face the individuals who you think may have a condition. It is better when someone is faced on their own than when they're faced collectively with a group. If you want to really make a difference or a change, it is okay, it is best from experience, and some formal level of training will tell you, if you sit and have one-on-one exchange with some people, you will get a different reaction and different opinion than if they are in a group or in a body who share seemingly the same ideology.
All right.
So my point here is that we should find the informal way of connecting to the people that we think may have a problem or may have an intention to commit a crime or otherwise. And they may not think that they are actually doing something wrong. They may just think that it is something that we need to do. If you look at countries where they think, taking a life is a matter of doing a religious of good, a life to them is not so important. They can sacrifice their life or they can take somebody's life. We do not want to get to that stage where life seems to be of no use, no importance, and it's just another person, just another thing, and it can happen. We cannot and will not get to that stage. So the point is, we have to keep amplifying the issue that every life is important and every opportunity should be given for somebody to live. And that is, we must try to convince the other people that causing the death of somebody is an acceptable thing and not something that should be encouraged. And we should find a way of what we are also seeing. The technical and trained people in social intervention will tell you, you want to be able to de-escalate violence to an extent. You want to be able to speak to people so that but you're not seeing a root cause as to where a person or group of persons would lead. You would hear of the pop-up situation where this man got shot because his body or otherwise. So we're saying that there are the spots and there are the places where some of these individuals will assemble. And there are people in our society who know them. What we need to do, the trained or otherwise people, need to find somebody who can talk to this person and say to them, listen, man, what is the issue? We've done it in the past.
And you said it a while ago, and you hit the nail on the head. A lot of us do not know the root cause of these problems that are existing.
That's correct.
And that is important. We don't know the root cause.
Yes.
You know. Let's entertain another caller and see what their contributions. Caller via WhatsApp. Good morning. You know you've been holding for a wee bit. Good morning to you. Welcome.
That's all right. That's all right. Good morning, and I think the wait is worth it. Thank you so much, JT, and thank you, Mr. McIntyre. And you touched on one of the issues I was going to raise in terms of finding solution, de-escalation. I think that's very important. I'm not going to spend more time on that. You already spent a lot of time on that. I think we should have, a lot has to do with the relationship. And I think having someone or identifying folks who have certain relationship with that person can help a lot to diffuse the situation. I think we have to focus also on education, and we should not just have empiric education like what we're doing now, which is very important, but it has to be specifically directed towards certain environment, whether it's that of elementary school, high school, etc., etc. I think we also should, sometimes having a sign up could remind, it may not prevent everyone from not doing something, but it can remind them of the importance of not doing that, like public places, clubs and bars and so on, have sign-ups saying violence is not allowed, guns and no guns and things like that. So, we got to be bombarded with the message that those things are negative. Secondly, I think, I don't have statistics for that, but just from a general field impression, I should say, I think there are folks out there who are concerned about confidentiality. So they may be scared or reluctant to report concerns they have regarding presence of guns and so on. And that is, just from my experience, it could be a significant problem that we may not, because it may be considered a taboo, and it may point fingers to people or group of people, but it is a concern which I think has to be addressed. Confidentiality. When you report some concerns, the moment you report it, you don't want the people involved to find out that you came and reported them. So I think that has to be addressed. And thirdly, I think we have to figure out a way to be able to identify the presence of things like gun. It may not be as thorough as when one is going through the airport, but in a dance hall, in a club, and so on, places that are popular, there should be some sort of screening to sort of discourage folks, if possible, from having guns with them in those venues. It will not be a one-size-fits-all, and each component itself may not lead to 100% success. But from an incremental, from a partial standpoint, it may overall, when added all together, may play a role in doing something with regard to the presence of gun and those kind of violence. Thank you so much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Relatively great points there from the caller there.
Before we accept this other caller, what I wanted to say is to just add a little bit to what this caller had said, and I really want to commend you for that. But there are two things I want to highlight out of this. One, the places that generate a particular image, Grenada, we may find ourselves responsible to hold ourselves responsible for allowing those places to generate worse image than they are presently. There are some places that they are written off. They have a certain look. There are kinds of look of persons that are associated there, and we isolate these people. We tend to generate a feeling that this is some place I should not go because it doesn't look in a particular way. One, it may be for the fear of it, and others, it may be just because people have a particular lifestyle that they left on their own, and they generate what they think would be their own community. And that is something we need to really closely look at, because a place generates a particular image, we'll leave it on its own, and it grows and it becomes worse. So we need to look at that, because there are other places in Grenada that would copycat and generate the image and the activities that those are currently happening. We should not write off any particular place, and we should find that we should enter and be able to talk to people at any place. Because a particular place is looking away, we cannot shut them down. Finally, there are some people in our society that we put a stamp on them.
Yes.
They have a particular hairstyle, they dress in a particular way, they walk in a particular way, they speak a particular way, and we write them off. And if you get to speak to these people, you'll realize that they sometimes they're not the people that we think they are.
Yeah.
They are human like we are. They carry the same blood and senses and everything else that like we do. And so because in some cases we write them off and we put a plaster on them and associate them with particular activities, we lose them altogether. We should change that kind of a mentality. We should try to see everybody as a person, and we should be able to try to reach everyone. Once you try to rule out people and places, you leave them up to generate their own level of dynamism. They develop their own kind of a culture. They develop their own activities that will not be acceptable in society because we leave them on their own because they generated certain types of images. Just like growing your children or otherwise. If you do not try to correct them, if you do not deal with them and you leave them on their own, they will generate what they think is best for them to do.
Yeah. I agree with you there. So, McIntyre, I know we could be on this particular topic, which time was, of course, of the constraint that we could have dealt with this for the entire morning. But we got to switch a wee bit. We've been kind of involved in this for a wee bit this morning.
Right.
And I know you want to take the final caller?
Let's take the final caller
and get it. Caller, good morning, you're welcome.
Yeah, along the line, you folks said that we need to find the root cause, and I think so. But as Dr. Alexis and them were speaking this morning, going back to the beginning where the thing starts. And we have to admit that prior to 83, we didn't have that kind of problem. And in spite of the fact that people would have expected the former revolutionaries to go up in arms, that didn't happen. What is happening now, because we have allowed the society to go down the same road like Haiti have been forced into, we are seeing some of the symptoms. Now, I don't want to speak about the symptoms this morning, but I'm saying that we need to at least admit that we left the ball. For one, we dismantled the organizations in the schools, the NWO, the NYO, where the evening classes was an attempt to take it over and everything like that. All of these, we are reaping the fruits of our labor now wrongly. But we could still rescue the situation by being radically honest. And I do agree with Mr. McIntyre. We need to talk to each other. We could solve the problem, if we're honest, because we know who are the people who are doing certain things. Finally, there was an idea, the idea of the generation. At the moment, the violence seems to be affecting a certain generation, but it could cross generation sooner or later. So we need to ensure that it doesn't cross generation. And those who are rejoicing of the death of those who have died so far, I think is misdirected. We need to see every life as important and try to create a condition that people can resolve the issue or even to solve the problem without going through that means. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much for your contribution as always.
So as we continue to exist and live, we'll have certain things that will be with us.
Yeah.
Crime and violence will be something that will happen because there's good and bad in everywhere, in every situation. There's God and there's devil, so things will happen. And we have to learn to find the coping mechanism. We would use that word a bit to deal and maneuver through the situation and condition that we live.
Yeah.
But while the crime and the violence and other occurrences do happen around us, they are the natural events that still will
unfold. And that's why I wanted to switch our conversation a wee bit, because I know the crime and violence part has been dominating for a wee bit this morning.
Yes.
But we're in the condition now. We know the drought condition is out there. Folks, are complaining, the water authority and so forth. They want a solution for it.
Yes.
But there's another part in terms of coping with the situation that is important. Yes. How are individuals able to cope in the conditions that we're going through right now? Are we mentally coping with? Because you can feel the mental strain that is on a lot of individuals who may not have had water to use for months. We understand that.
Yes.
I mean, you with your expertise in this particular field,
yes.
How could you address this, or what could you say to an individual in terms of the coping mechanism for this, in terms of the conditions that we are seeing now, the dry season, and everybody talking about climate change and everything that else is in between? Because it's still an extra 5 minutes, but right. We're going to have to do this morning.
It is easy for the human being to play the blame game, and it is very easy for us to get complacent when things are not happening. And if I want to give the National Disaster Management Agency some kudos in terms of emphasizing comprehensive disaster risk reduction and management, this morning I have to do it because they've been saying every time they come on, prepare for the eventualities. It's not only the hurricane season, it's not only wet, but it's also dry. And it's not just one thing, it's just about everything. And because of climate change, for the climatologists and other people who have been speaking about the issues, that is the reality of the condition which we face. And we're saying here that we need to be generally more proactive than reactive. We do have instruments that can give us forecastings. We do have instruments that can give us predictions. And we do have experts that can give modeling, computer modeling and otherwise that would say to us, and that would be based on indicators as to where we can go.
Yeah.
And while we are in an extreme dry season, NAWASA and the Disaster Agency, Forestry and Climate Resilience and so on, they have been speaking about the effects of climate change, and that will result in excess heating. And if you have excess heating, you have more evaporation and obviously less water.
Yeah.
If you have deforestation or other things happening, you remove the trees, you are going to decrease the amount of rainfall and still increase more evaporation. So your water catchments will tend to go down. And if you are slow and you're playing catch up as agencies and institutions responsible and do not move with technology and the time, we will get caught and we're going to get left behind. And if you ask whether there is sufficient water in Grenada to supply us throughout the year, whether we should feel the effects of a dry season this severe, it is left for all of us to determine whether or not there is sufficient water that we can create more resources and means of having access to them throughout Grenada. But we cannot play the blame game of blaming NAWASA and not doing our own bit. We have to become more responsible in our use of water. When the rainfall, we have more water, obviously, but we do not create the rain harvesting mechanism that we can have our own and have them there when we need them for future reasons. And the other thing is that when we face extreme situations, we feel it that much because we didn't prepare ourselves adequately. We did not have or create catchment areas, as they insist. Always have clean covered containers that you can store water, because there will be VAR regulations and other things regardless of what amount of water you have. There would be the time when it may become necessary to regulate. Just like you may have load shedding because something may happen. It may not be as a natural reason where we have less rainfall, where water cannot be in access, but we have a ready source of water. But the mechanical mechanism of pumping and otherwise to get to people may also be a challenge. There may not be sufficient areas where you dam and pump to one area. There are countries where there are no rivers, little rainfall or otherwise, and there's continuous water throughout. And so sometimes we have to look at how far we are in terms of technology and how our planning processes are in trying to mitigate these conditions. Because if we preach climate change, that is a reality of climate change, that there will be reduced rainfall at times, or there may be excessive rainfall at one time, and there will be excessive heat at one time. As we speak, over the last couple of days, I've been speaking to my colleague in some of the islands. Antigua being having flooding, Dominica being having excess rain, Jamaica has had a share part of it, and these are the few countries that have been speaking to me and telling me what they've been going through. Mm-hmm. So it is saying that we are in the Eastern Caribbean. Further north of us, they're having weather, flood. The drain, one guy sent to me water going down the street, and he said, they say Antigua has no river and so on. We have waterfall. That's only a couple of days ago. So it's the reality of climate change, but it is saying to us, how do we prepare and how do we cope with that? We have to face the new reality, the new norm, that things will come upon us that we probably did not expect. Yeah. But when the experts say to us that we are living in unpredictable times where things can happen at any time, it means that our proactive and our preparedness mechanism must kick in much earlier, and we must do things year-round. Maybe in the next couple of days, as the moon changes, that we may have some rainfall or otherwise. It is tradition as you go into Whit Monday and into June, the planting season. There is sometimes traditionally a heavy downpour. When that downpour comes on, we find ourselves not ready for it. The land space is not ready for planting. Yeah. The housing and the other things around, they're not well prepared. Drains and leaks and all these will happen. So then you have water getting into some places, wash down of some areas because, again, we did not act ahead of time. But one of the ways, as you ask, how we can psychologically prepare to deal with those situations. We did maintain in all aspects of psychological readiness. Preparation limits anxiety and inappropriate or incorrect action. So if you are prepared, you are informed, you are educated, you put structures in place, you become less apprehensive, you make better decisions, and so you are easier to cope with it. Yeah. And that's a general statement. So if you ask for specifics in terms of the breakdown, we can go into smaller things as to say to you, like now there is what you call, NASA has kicked in its regulation. I think they said the second time since it's in existence that they had to enact that. I think around 2010, when we had those severe weather and so on, they had to have dealt with it. Our practices in terms of the use of water that I mentioned before in the dry season, we have to change that. And our information processes leading up to what is happening here has to start earlier. Human nature. If things are not in our face, we don't hear them, they don't happen very often, we drop back into our comfort mode. Yeah. And this is why my job and other jobs within agencies that are in risk reduction, it's always dynamic, it's always active, because you have to stay on the game and you have to be in people's face telling them that's what you need to do. If you try to invite somebody to a forum, to a meeting, or otherwise you tell them a week or two before, and the morning of the event or 2 days before, you still need to call them. Yeah. Because they
it's not on their agenda.
It's probably on the agenda, but the agenda is not consulted. Yeah. So you wouldn't remember. So the proactive and the preventative measures that we keep saying that people should do, if we don't repeat them as regularly as should, I don't know how many times is enough. But you need to be able to grade it. Yeah. And there should be a continuum, but it must start at a low and move. Because when, as I say, when mango is in season, you don't hear a lot about oranges or other things. Yeah. You hear about mangoes and different types of mango because mango in season.
So we focus what is before.
And the focus, that's what it is. Now, as we move into the hurricane season in the next couple of days, which is, again, as the disaster coordinator said in our meeting this morning, that it's a frightening prediction. Yeah. But again, it doesn't take all of the 24 forecasted system to strike Grenada. It only take one. As a matter of fact, it doesn't take an entire one. It could just take an aspect of one where you get too much rain over a given period of time. You may get heavy winds at a period, and that could create some problem. So it is a situation where one needs to be on the button, on the ball. There's another aspect I wish to state in terms of this will go for both crime and violence, and it's going to also go for naturally caused events that can create disaster. A state of emergency. When does a state of emergency kick in, or when should it be called? If we are saying that we are faced with an unprecedented situation, a drought situation, is it a time that the state should call or declare a state of emergency for particular areas, for particular reasons? Or are we at a point where crime and violence is at a state that a state of emergency should be called so that certain mechanism could kick it? It's some of the questions that will be asked. It may be an extreme, but that has to be the consideration on what that means. I think people sometimes tend to not understand what a state of emergency means. A state of emergency means that there is a declaration that a situation has become not uncontrolled, but is unprecedented, where it requires special control and enforcement mechanism to normalize situation or to make things effective. And so it is not a time when a state of emergency is declared that it is a police state. And it is not when a state of emergency is declared that it gives the police unlimited authority to just arrest people. A state of emergency gives the state mechanism added leverage outside of what the regular regulation says, that they can institute stronger mechanisms outside of what the existing law gives. So when a state of emergency is declared, it is for a given period where the country's mechanism can enforce without going to parliament or going to changing laws or anything for a particular period of time. So it means that they can restrict movement, they can restrict activities, they can restrict resources and distribute otherwise for a designated period. As I said, it has to be at a point which is an extreme situation that requires certain measures. We have been guilty in previous times of calling state of emergency sometimes a bit too late, or not calling it at all. So the question is, should we be considering at this point that we are at a place where a state of emergency should be declared for either crime and violence or where an extreme drought situation is concerned? There are two things about it as well. One, the regulation that gives NAWASA the authority to putting those control could be enforced by any enforcement person within the NAWASA or as designated by the state. It doesn't have to be a police officer, it just has to be anyone who is so authorized to enforce. As we understand for the regulation, one could be charged, I think, about $500, yes. Or you can go to prison for a month or something like that. It doesn't take a police officer to do that. And at this stage, maybe it doesn't warrant a state of emergency, except people have become excessive, they are not obeying, and it is becoming to be almost an uncontrolled crisis. That mechanism where a state of emergency declared, where it gives more authority across board to institute and to enforce things that can happen. So it is the thinking early that Grenada should be considering. At what stage should you require whether a partial or a full state that you can encourage aspect of the state mechanism to kick in so that people can live as close as near normal as possible.
All right. Mr. Mack, we are a bit over time this morning, and I understand the reason why we had to take an extra 5 minutes or so, but I want to thank you for still coming in this morning, and we still get a whole lot in.
We did.
We did get a whole lot in. Thank once again, as usual.
My pleasure, all the time. So I kick back to our activities where we had some training at NADMA in terms of damage analysis and needs assessment, and that is a critical thing that is important when even now that you have a drought situation, there are state mechanism and otherwise sectors that would be required to do what level of damage that may occur as a result of the excessive heat and lack of water, and how do you determine the need, you analyze the need, and to be able to support it. We have that training that is currently ongoing.
All right. So McIntyre, thanks once again, and hopefully next week we can get an entire hour in and do the necessaries.
It's my pleasure always.
All right. Hey, folks, that's how we take a wrap for this edition of To The Point. Thanks all who contributed towards today's program. Thank you so much. Join us again for another edition tomorrow. Have a good one, folks. That's what we say goodbye.